Okay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Louise Swartzwalter. I'm here at Albuquerque Natural Health Center. I'm the owner and founder of the center. I've been doing this work for about 12 years. I'm a naturopath and a biofeedback therapist, and I've worked a lot with thyroid. So today we're in our center. We're kind of crowded in here, and I don't know how many people are here, but we're here learning about the secret to a balanced thyroid. We've been talking a little bit about with the group here about their symptoms and things they've experienced in their life, and I can't wait to go over this with you because I've seen so many simple techniques, alternative techniques work for people over the years, and I do want to share some of those with all of you out there and help you see that you can really feel better. And I guess the first place to start would be a little bit about my story. So I was allergic to everything in the world. So I kind of crashed after having 14 mercury fillings taken out in one day. And I'm talking crashed. Like, I was on oxygen for 3 years. I slept in bathtubs. I was living in Illinois. I was pretty much allergic to everything in the world. And that happened also after my son was born. So 2 children, he was my second, and I really had a lot of fatigue and issues after that, and no doctors really picked up what was wrong. Looking back, I know that I had hormone imbalances then, and again, no one picked those up. So I just thought it was chronic fatigue, and I would go to bed at 3 o'clock every afternoon. My husband would have to make dinner, and it's a very long story. And I guess the best way to share that with you, I'm just going to get a picture here for a minute and show you all a picture, because a picture saves 1,000 words, right? That's what they say. So I'll pass this around, but that was me. And that was back in 1993, and I had no front teeth for 3 months. I couldn't tolerate teeth. So I was allergic to all the dental materials. So it's a long story, so I had to learn how to heal my own body. In fact, my brain didn't work at that time. I had my phone number written in my wallet. So that was before cell phones. So I had to, in fact, my quest was to get my brain working again. What's is really interesting is that I actually worked with special education students. That's my career. So I kind of say, you know what, I worked with those kids and then became like the kids I taught, which is really true, because I also had fatigue, but I'd have hyperactivity swings. So I would do both. I'd have hyperactivity and fatigue. And so looking back, I know that I had thyroid issues that no one picked up. I had adrenal issues. Obviously, if you have diagnoses of chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia or any of those autoimmune issues, that just means your body is out of balance and it can come back into balance. So that's my story. So that's how I even got on this whole path of natural health and why I'm here with you today and can say to you, you know, I'm a good detective. I had to be for myself, and if I didn't figure it out for myself, I wouldn't be here being able to figure it out for you. So it's not the book work, it's not the naturopathic degree, it's not the little things on the wall that say you have the certificate. It's your experience, right? So that's what happens. So I'm so excited that you're here today and we can share this with you. So this is the secret to a balanced thyroid. And many of you have some of these symptoms that were on the questionnaire. So you might have fatigue, you might have hormone imbalances, you might have increased sensitivity to cold and hot, you might have anemia, you might have your hair falling out. Well, there's actually a bunch of organs that are involved, so it's the whole body that we really have to look at. But the thyroid doesn't stand alone. In other words, we want to look at the thyroid, the adrenal, the kidney, and the pituitary are the main glands that are involved. The whole body is, but those are the glands that are involved when you're really looking at a thyroid issue. So if you're always exhausted, or you're feeling too hot or cold, maybe you're panicky, you're at the mercy of your moods, you're losing enthusiasm for life, you're sleeping poorly, all of these issues have to deal with thyroid imbalances, but again, it's not just thyroid, it's more than that. How many people have had dry hair or they're losing their hair? That's pretty common too. Heavy menstrual periods, joint aches and pains, so body aches and pains. And again, some of you are saying yes to a lot of these. Constipation, puffy face and eyes. I've had a lot of people over the years come to me and go, why are my eyes so puffy? You know, they're like, hey, I can't put my makeup on. A hoarse voice, tingling fingers. Okay, so we're going to discover some answers for some of those today. So, you know, do you want to feel like the first picture or the second picture? The second picture is my My client from Kentucky, my VIP client that came for a weekend. Hyperthyroid symptoms. So you can also be hyperthyroid. Okay, so hyperthyroid just means overactive thyroid. Hyperthyroid, you'd have high T4 levels and low TSH. You might have a goiter, also called Graves' disease. Doctors actually use radioactive iodine for that. So, how many people's ever had that? Did you have radioactive iodine? Yeah? Okay, so we definitely want to treat you for iodine. We treat you for the allergy to iodine, that's what I'm getting with that. Rapid heartbeat, depression, weight loss, increased appetite, increased sweating, shortness of breath, sweaty palms, maybe your periods are scanty. Okay, so those are all hyperthyroid symptoms. And again, what I've seen is sometimes people go back and forth. You know, so that's why it's very confusing for the doctors, I think, is because they're like, well, wait a minute, you're appearing like you're hypothyroid, then they give you a bunch of iodine, then it's too much iodine, then you go hyperthyroid, and iodine is the treatment, but it's all about balance. It may not just be iodine, in fact, it probably isn't. It's probably an adrenal remedy, it could be pituitary, it could be other hormones that we have to put in balance. So in the United States, more than 20 million people have a thyroid disorder. You know, and actually that's an old statistic. I bet it's even more today. And the reason why it's more today is because of radiation, okay? We have more radiation in our atmosphere from cell phones and cell phone towers and Fukushima, and now maybe even our food. There's people who are concerned about the fact that if all of this radioactive fallout is on our food, and even if you're buying organic food or farmers market food, it's sitting in our air, it's getting rained on, right? So now we all have small amounts of radiation in our body, and that radiation is one of the causes of putting that thyroid out of balance. People who've had lots of x-rays or been around x-rays or x-ray technicians too have been exposed to high levels of radiation. Right? I won't even let them scan my food at the store. Okay? Those little plates where you scan your food.
Wow.
Okay? So when I first moved, you guys saw the picture of me. I lived in Taos to heal. Okay? So I bought an adobe house in Taos from Chicago. Lived there for 7 years. Hiked, prayed. Those were my monk years. And when I moved to Albuquerque in about the year 2000, I think, I could not figure out why I didn't feel like the food down here was good, because we had more organic food stores. All I had up there was a little store called Sid's and maybe the farmer's market. And then a doctor said to me, "Are you having your food scanned?" And I never thought of that. She goes, "Well, yeah, I mean they're beeping your food over those plates." And I thought, well, that's a small amount of radiation, isn't it? And so I actually use Hannah Kroger's Pico board. Julia, maybe I'll have you get that for me, the Pico board, to take away the radiation. So when I go to the grocery store now, I don't let them scan my food. I have them put a bag over that little plate. The only place that they can scan my food and it's okay, believe it or not, is Vitamin Cottage. And Vitamin Cottage grocers, and here's the reason why. The woman who started that store up in Colorado knew Hannah Kroger. So they don't use the same radio waves coming through that glass plate as they do at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or other stores. So this is a Pico board, and this is one of Hannah Kroger's little deals. And what it does is it takes away the Pico waves. The Pico waves are a waste product of the nuclear industry, commonly used in treating our favorite foods for shelf life. So we're getting in our food. So what I do is I just put this on the floor, and I put my grocery bag on top of it and leave it there for 2 or 3 minutes. And then I can take my food out and put it away, so that I'm taking away any of the little bit of radiation that's been put in my food just from even being on the shelf in the store. Okay? So that's how I use this. And I just mentioned Hannah Kroger, so let me show you a picture of Hannah Kroger. Hannah was like the grandmother of natural health, and this is her book called Help One Another. And there's Hannah. And so she started probably the first health food store in the country in the 1950s up in Boulder. And she did a lot of healing work with people. So much so that they tried to put her in jail a few times for practicing medicine without a license. So she became a minister, okay? And she has a healing church up there. Now she's passed and her daughter has taken over her work, and I went up there to learn, and so I spent a couple of weeks for 2 summers in a row, actually 3, learning her work, and I teach her work now, and it's amazing. But Hannah taught us a lot of this stuff and knew some of these things way back then. Okay, so that's her pico board. Did I say no? Pass that around. I'll just let you guys walk through that. Okay, so radiation is affecting all of us. So the secret is this: you have to treat the whole person. Okay, we can't compartmentalize things and say, okay, we're just going to give you this thyroid supplement. So even if you're here today and you're like, what am I going to do with food? What am I going to take? Are you going to recommend supplements for me? Everyone's individual. So I have to look at the whole broad spectrum of what everyone might need, and then you're an individual. I can't say to you, this is going to help you until I really know your body. Does that make sense? So it's going to be a whole spectrum of things, but you've got to look at the whole person. And then you have to find the causes of things. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're treating the symptoms rather than the cause. Okay? And so if you look at the cause of why the thyroid's out of balance, or why your adrenals are out of balance, maybe you've had a lot of stress over your lifetime. And you know, it's like a bank account, okay? So if you've had stress after stress after stress after stress, then your adrenals are depleted. And the adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. Okay, and they're the stress glands, and when those are depleted, you can have all kinds of symptoms. So it's not just thyroid often. In fact, the literature and everything that I've experienced with people is sometimes you need to give both natural supplements, something for adrenal and something for thyroid together, and that has worked really well. And so what I've discovered is I actually figured out sort of a signature system. And so my system is this: I work with the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the energy field. And the piece that's missing that most people aren't doing is the field work. Because if we don't change the programs in the field, the program of, oh, I'm so tired, I can't get better, and I don't feel good, and or whatever your program is. So we all have sort of emotional baggage or programs in the field, and if we don't address those, the physical body is not going to change all the way. So what I figured out is a way to do things faster. And the reason I like to do things faster if I can is because it took me so long. It took me 16 years to get better, and I still wasn't where I wanted to be, and I still keep getting better. And yet God keeps showing me little signs that I can now learn more to even teach all of you. So for example, I moved into this office 2 years ago, and I'm pretty vibrant and healthy. I can do 80-hour weeks. I exercise, I take good care of myself, I do all those things I had to learn to do to heal. However, when I moved in here, I actually started getting a breast lump. I'm like, what the heck is that? But then, God always wants me to learn things before I then can help you. I'm kind of asking for that not to happen anymore. But anyway, and it's because there's a lot of fluoride in this building. There's 6 dentists in this building. Fluoride, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, the halogen family, puts iodine out of balance. Okay? And so that is the cause.
And they have that in the water.
And they have it in the water. Yeah. So you have to detox that chlorine and that fluorine. In fact, there's a fluoride tea. Hannah has a fluoride tea. I'm drinking fluoride tea. Okay? There's a little homeopathic that I have for halogens. I take that. So I have learned how to balance my body now that I'm in here with figuring out how to keep the levels of that down and doing a proper amount of iodine. Okay? And iodine I use is Lugel's iodine. This is an old-fashioned iodine. Okay? Kind of what great-great-grandma used. Okay? Some of those good old-fashioned things work best. Okay? But again, some of you may actually have a sensitivity to iodine. We would treat the allergy to iodine. So that's what I learned. Stories, I can tell you stories after stories. So Judy, let me tell you about Judy. So Judy was kind of hyperthyroid, but more hyperthyroid. She had a goiter. And so I did an allergy treatment for her. You know what, Julie, will you get me that flashlight? Do you know where it is? The laser light?
Excuse me.
It's there's gonna be one in this room. On the shelf in the corner by the bottles. So there's an allergy treatment that I did with iodine, and the goiter started going down. And then we did several biofeedback sessions and really worked both on adrenal and thyroid and detoxed a lot of heavy metals. And she's got more energy and is really good today. The other thing with Judy is she flies on an airplane a lot. Her husband's a pilot. So it was radiation. So we had to look at radiation and keep the levels of radiation down so that she could get her energy back again and take her walks and live her life and do what she wanted to do. But doing really good. So this is Hannah Kroger's crystal laser light. And Hannah taught us, this is Hannah's work, she said you can activate the thymus gland by just holding it here, thyroid, pituitary, and it will help the immune system too. So this would be for immune system, thyroid, and pituitary. Well, I figured out how to do a cellular retraining therapy by taking iodine, or let's say, well, I'll give you another example. You can actually use this for any allergy treatment. So I had a woman who said, I don't want to be eating chocolate anymore. I'm addicted to chocolate. Can you treat me for chocolate? And she had chocolate in her purse, and she always kept this little piece of chocolate. She would have to have that every day in her purse, right? So she pulls out her chocolate, and so we took chocolate, just I'm going to take iodine, and we put it like this, and we held it there for 5 minutes. And I also pulled her up on the biofeedback program and broadcasted frequency to help this enhance this treatment. And she said, I don't want chocolate anymore. It was amazing. So 24 hours later, I had her stay away from chocolate for 24 hours. 24 hours later, she didn't want chocolate. There's another woman that I had who, Lil, who was sensitive to her thyroid medication. And so she goes, I got a new medication that's just making me sick. She goes, but I think it's something in it. And so we've also discovered that it's the fillers sometimes in the medications that people are sensitive to. And so I said, well, do you have any with you? And she did. So we did, same thing. We treated her for her sensitivity to her medication. I said, are you going to be okay not taking that for 24 hours? Meaning tomorrow you can't take it. You got to stay away from it for 24 to 30 hours for that allergy treatment to work. She was good with that. She did that. After that, she was able to absorb it differently and felt better. And it changed everything. So I will pass this around, and you certainly can play with it. You can put it here. You can put it here. I will even use it to clear a room. We got entities in the room. I'm like, get out now. We don't want these things in the room. And I'm like doing the 995 thing. And so I'll let you play with that. Your brain is involved in everything you do. So I'm very big on the brain.
So how do you clear this in between each person?
You know what? It's probably going to be okay. Good question. Have an intention.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was just a brain talk I guess I did at Vitamin Cottage. So what actually happens in the thyroid, and some of you already know a lot of this. I can tell from what you're explaining, what you're sharing with me today. Thyroid T3 and T4 regulate the metabolism, right? So they're regulating the metabolism in every cell. They also regulate your temperature, and they control how quickly the body uses energy. The hormones secreted are critical for your nervous system, your skeletal system, your reproductive system, your heart rate, your body weight, your cholesterol. But the thyroid is weakened by caffeine, by candida, by chronic dieting, by malabsorption, by stress, and by sugar. So, the first place to start is probably absolutely diet. The first thing I could tell all of you if you're having issues is stay away from sugar, and many of you are going to need to stay away from gluten. Okay? And it's because gluten, gosh, it has so much stuff in it. Like I have people who actually travel to Europe and they can eat the gluten over there, but here they're sick from the gluten. It's how we store it. It gets mycotoxins in it. It's just not super healthy for many of us, and yet everyone is different. So I couldn't say to you every single person in this room is gluten sensitive. I just know that people feel better, and I would challenge you to get off of sugar, gluten. Corn is a big one, especially if it's GMO corn, meaning if it's not organic corn, it's going to have glyphosate in it. And glyphosate is Agent Orange. Okay, it's a pesticide. It's an herbicide.
Why not?
So you're eating that, or you're drinking that. And if you think about how many products in our world have corn, okay, corn syrup, dextrose, all of those things. And here we are in New Mexico, right? And we want our enchiladas. You know, we got to have that corn. So I have found too that blue corn is better for most people, organic blue corn, because it has more protein in it than yellow corn. So you can keep that in mind too. Iodine is used to balance the thyroid, but again, it depends on the levels. And there's something called iodine loading, which just means you start with 1 or 2 drops, and you can even put it on your skin. So in the beginning, I just rubbed it on my belly. The other thing iodine's good for is it's really good for scar tissue. So it'll take away scar tissue. I had a woman who had an epidectomy, and she had a big scar here, and she put iodine on it, and she said, my scar is getting better. For wrinkles, there's other things for wrinkles, but I bet it would still help. You know, it's going to turn you orange. But I have a great little skin remedy called Max and Jane that has gotten my wrinkles gone. So, yeah. So see us afterwards for that. You'll look tan. There you go. That'll work. Where's the iodine book I want to show you guys? Here it is. How many have heard of Dr. David Brownstein? You have his book, okay. So he is kind of the guru on iodine, and talks all about that halogen family that I just described to you, and how it upsets the balance of iodine. And I'll explain why in a few minutes how that works. But anyway, this is a valuable book. So he's talking all about iodine. The interesting thing, even when I've seen him talk about iodine for thyroid in a webinar, he's still not mentioning people can be sensitive to it. No one's figured that out.
I went to his program, and that was the whole basis of his presentation.
Was sensitivity?
Sensitivity.
But sensitivity to iodine?
Yeah.
So
Because he said that we need iodine, but we can't all tolerate it at the same level, so we really have to be careful how we expose ourselves to it, make sure we have the right amount, and that we adjust it as needed. So he has a huge
on
aspect of
sensitivity
that that's
to
happened since he wrote that book.
Okay, so that's really good. However, knowing that and the way you say that to me, still what I still feel though, and maybe this isn't true because I don't know for sure, but if someone has a sensitivity to iodine and you're still playing with the amount, you know, you go, I'm going to take 2 drops and I'm good on that, and then they start becoming real tired again, and then you say, let's try 4 drops, and you're really just playing with it, I still really believe the thing that's missing in most places is people aren't treating for the allergy to it or the sensitivity to it. Because it's so simple. When you treat for the sensitivity to it, now we can absorb it better. So it's that way with anything. And most thyroid issues are going to be somewhat autoimmune. And I would even say to you, autoimmune just means we have allergies. How many people have allergies? It's got a good 70% probably in this room that have allergies.
Louise, can you talk about allergy testing in labs? Because I had an allergy. I went to a ENT doctor, and because of my throat, and he said, well, you have allergies and GERD. So go to the laboratory and get an allergy test. And when it came back, I said I have no allergies, and I don't have GERD either. So
Was it like for like 1,500 possible allergens?
oh, I have no idea.
So
the
the-
laboratory
the-
and the blood test.
Yeah.
The question was about allergies and testing for allergies.
Yeah.
And there's lots of different kinds of testing for allergies. There's blood tests that they do. Of course, there's the prick test, you know. And those allergy tests are in that time period, in that moment. So just like anything
You
else,
change every day.
we change, you know. And so let's say you have some sensitivities to blueberries today. 3 months from now, if you stay away from blueberries, you may not. And yet there might be some fixed ones as well. So some of those blood tests are valid, and you can get good information and know what you need to do from them.
Yeah.
I use my biofeedback computers in a muscle testing and intuition, and it's pretty right on. And the reason why, again, is because I spent all that money. We were $84,000 in credit card debt on my health. I've been there, I've done that, I know what it feels like. And none of those tests helped me. So if those didn't help me, why are they going to help you? So that's where I designed my own system. And so my system is I like to look at the whole picture and the whole body and go, well, let's figure this out for you. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't say to you, hey, you know what, I do think you have a sensitivity to some fruit. It sounds like you're eating pineapple every day. Pineapple's really sweet. It's causing candida flare-ups. Let's stay away from pineapple for the next 4 weeks and see how you feel. So because you get a blood test and it says to you, stay away from these foods, and sometimes people freak out and they go, well, I don't have anything to eat, right? I certainly did. And so then you got to play with that and figure it out for them. But it is still your body, and the final test is, how do you feel when you stay away from that food or that substance? Yeah.
Just a quick question, Louise, about the transdermal. If you put it on your skin transdermally, have you noticed a difference than taking it internally?
The iodine?
Uh-huh.
So if you put this on your skin, do you notice a difference than taking it internally? When you put it on your skin, it actually gets absorbed better. Okay? So even Dr. Shealy talks about magnesium lotion, which most of you probably need. Okay? You're low in magnesium. Most of us are low in magnesium. And he did the testing and found that we absorb it better through our skin, and blood levels would be up in 6 weeks when you put it transdermally on your skin versus taking magnesium capsules. Okay?
I take Dr. Shealy's magnesium and it burns my skin so bad I stop using it.
Okay, so everybody's different, so there might be something in it. But again, what we could do is actually treat you for the allergy to it. And then you could use it. So iodine is used to balance the thyroid hormone levels. And here's what actually happens in the body. So the reason why the halogen family, the chlorine, bromine, fluoride, fluorine, put iodine out of balance is because here's tyrosine. So here's the molecule. So here's tyrosine, and it has 3 or 4 iodines around it, depending if it's T3 or T4. That's the molecule. That's what it looks like. What happens with halogens is they're higher up on the periodic table. So this is a little technical. This is chemistry, okay? And so they are bullies, and they kick out the iodine, and they stick around that tyrosine. So now I have chlorine around tyrosine. But because it's still the halogen family, when you go for a blood test by the doctor and he's just testing normal thyroid, he's not doing specific T3, T4, and getting all the specifics. He's just doing TSH. He's going to find out that you have this chlorine around this tyrosine molecule, but it looks like iodine. It looks like you have enough. So he says you're fine. That's what happens in the blood tests. Those are bullies. So they hide. Now, how many people have had fluoride in their drinking water? We all have. Okay? Even if you did it as a kid. How many people have drank water with chlorine before? How many people have been swimming? Pools. How many people have a hot tub where they actually put chlorine in their hot tub? Okay? So we all have been exposed to those. It's also about, and I can't go into all of this today because that's a whole nother class, but it's also about methylation. Meaning, some people are going to kick out that extra chlorine, fluorine, bromine that they're taking in. Their kidney and liver are going to detox it better than someone else. So maybe it doesn't affect their thyroid as much as it does this person. So it's how we detox. It's how we methylate. You guys saw the picture of me. I'm not a great methylator. I have to take glutathione and other things to help my body do that. I use a sauna at least twice a week, a dry heat sauna, to sweat so I can sweat those chemicals out of me. So I've learned to balance, my body given my sensitivities and my whole path. And now I'm pretty good, but that's how I live now. That's my choice. That's my lifestyle. So T3 and T4 represent those iodine atoms, right? And then they also break down to other substances. So the woman in the purple with I'm sorry I didn't actually take pictures before and after. This was in California a couple of years ago, but we did treat her for that goiter, and it went down about 30 or 40%. It was smaller the next day. So all we did was take the light and put iodine under it, And then I supported it on my biofeedback program, and it was down. It was pretty cool. How many people know about parathyroid? Have you heard of the parathyroid gland? The parathyroid glands are four little glands on either side of the thyroid, and they actually regulate calcium in the body. So, and calcium is disrupted by lead. So, when I'm working with somebody with osteopenia or osteoporosis, we always try to detox the lead first. Because you can take, and calcium supplements, there's 145 kinds of calciums. And you're not going to take the right one for you. And then a lot of them are made from limestone, and then you're going to end up with kidney stones. So I'm not a big advocate of people taking calcium supplements. I'm a bigger advocate of people taking a broad spectrum minerals, and we have one in our raffle. I think it's a free one, so you can win a free bottle of complete minerals that I put frequency in, because it's all of them together. You're going to absorb it better that way. So that's what I believe about calcium. So the parathyroid glands regulate those levels. Your hormones work like a web all together. So we can't, again, take one thing and say you just need this, you just need that. It's a complete picture. And I like to balance that, again, on my programs, because I can balance it with frequency and also look for what are the nutritional supplements you need, what are the foods you need. And then, of course, the thing I haven't even talked about yet is the emotions. We've got to work on the emotional, mental, and spiritual body as well to have complete whole health. So the adrenal glands. So I said earlier that when we're looking at a thyroid issue, it's not just thyroid. We've got to look at the adrenals, the kidneys, and the pituitary. Now, the adrenal glands are those stress glands, and how many people have taken maybe an adrenal supplement in the past? Okay. And did it help you? Do you think it helped you? Okay. So there's lots of kinds out there. Okay. I even got an email from another client this morning saying, hey, I'm freaking out. My blood test showed that, I've got really low adrenal and my iron is really low. What can you recommend for me? I got to be out of town by Monday. So I'm like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Let's do it fast. Okay, so the adrenal gland sits on top of the kidneys, and they help the kidney release hormones and messengers to help balance cortisol and adrenaline. But often a thyroid issue is also an adrenal issue, so we have to look at both.
So Louise,
Mm-hmm.
when you ask a doctor this, because I've asked the doctor straight out,
Mm-hmm.
And they will do everything to get you off the subject, and they will never answer your question. Is that because they really don't know?
Probably. So the question is, when Mary asked a doctor this about adrenals, they didn't really want to answer her. They kind of skirted the question, and I think every doctor is different. But if if they didn't know about it and they didn't know how to address it, they might say that to you.
Is it medical school is different than naturopathic school?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
More than anatomy, physiology, it's like a disease, and
Yes.
you learn more in that program than you do regular allopathic,
Right. So naturopathic
especially-
school is different.
especially on diet. And
Yes.
nutrition, they don't know how to do that very well.
No, they don't. They're getting better. But so the discussion is about doctors, and they don't know nutrition, and they're not trained in that. And naturopaths are trained more in nutrition, and they're trained in detoxing. So it's about detoxing the body. Yes. Yes.
I have heard that the reason they don't want to talk about adrenal fatigue is because the only way that they really have to treat is to give you cortisone shots, and once you're on them, you never get off of them.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So what April just shared was that the reason doctors don't want to necessarily talk about adrenal fatigue with you is because the only way to treat it is to give you cortisol shots, and giving you cortisol shots, once you're on them, you have to stay on them. So, and again, there's natural supplements and natural things that will help your adrenals too, and they're all different, and everybody's biochemically different. So I probably have 4 or 5 different kinds of adrenal supplements even just here. And then, of course, I know a lot of the brands and a lot of the different supplement brands, and if I'm testing someone and I find that they need something I don't have, I send them to Vitamin Cottage or the nutrition store, or we look online, or we find it. So every